At 68 years old, I heard my son tell his wife, "Just use my mom's card, she has $850,000 saved up." In that moment, I realized that 22 years living in their house hadn't been a home. It was a silent prison. What I did in the next 48 hours shocked the entire family and changed my life forever. But before we continue, make sure you're already subscribed to Heartfelt Stories and write in the comments where you're watching this video from. We love to know how far our stories are reaching. I was peeling potatoes at the kitchen sink when I heard it. My son Brandon's voice cut through the thin wall separating the kitchen from the family room, and every word was like a sharp blade slicing the air. "Honey, you can use my mom's card. She has about $850,000 just sitting in her account doing nothing." My fingers froze around the potato. The knife fell into the sink with a metallic clang that seemed to echo through the kitchen. I felt my heart pound, beating so hard I thought it would burst out of my chest. 68 years of my life. 48 years working as a seamstress, a house cleaner, a cook at the local diner. Every penny of that $850,000 had a story. It held blood, sweat, sleepless nights, aching backs, swollen hands. And my son had just offered it up as if it were his to give. "Are you sure? Won't she be upset?" The voice of Stephanie, my daughter-in-law, had that sweet, fake Southern drawl I knew so well after 22 years of living with her. "My mom won't say anything. She lives here rent-free, eats our food, uses our electricity, our water, our Wi-Fi. It's the least she can do, help out when we need it. Besides, she's getting up there in years. What does she need so much money for at her age? She's not buying a sports car." Every word was a hammer blow to my chest. Getting up there in years. Rent-free. The least she can do. As if I were a dead weight, an obligation, a burden they carried out of pure Christian charity. I braced my trembling hands on the edge of the sink. My vision blurred, but I didn't let the tears fall. Not yet. I had cried too much in this house over the last 22 years. Ever since Brandon convinced me to sell my modest 3-bedroom ranch to help him with the down payment on this McMansion in the suburbs, where they now treated me like hired help. Wow, $850,000. That's enough to completely redo the master bathroom and finally get that she shed I've been wanting for my crafts. Stephanie spoke with an excitement that made me sick to my stomach. Exactly. You deserve a nice bathroom, honey. And I want to replace that old sectional too. I've always wanted one of those genuine Italian leather ones from Restoration Hardware. They kept talking, planning how to spend my money, laughing, dreaming of renovations and new furniture. And there I was, standing in the kitchen, peeling potatoes for their Sunday dinner, invisible, insignificant, reduced to a bank account with legs. I took a deep breath. I wiped my hands on my apron and walked slowly to the kitchen doorway. I stood there watching them both on the oversized sectional they were already planning to replace. Brandon had his iPad in his hand, probably browsing house for bathroom ideas. Stephanie was leaning against him, smiling, pointing at the screen. My son. My only son. The boy I raised alone after his father walked out on us when Brandon was just 4 years old. The boy I worked 3 jobs for simultaneously to send to a decent school. The boy who graduated as a civil engineer because I sewed alterations until 3 a.m. for years to pay for his state university tuition and room and board. Now that boy was a 45-year-old man who had just called me old and useless. I went back to the kitchen without them seeing me. I finished peeling the potatoes mechanically. I put them on to boil. I prepared the green beans, the mac and cheese, the pot roast. All on autopilot while my mind was racing. 22 years. 22 years living in this house in the smallest bedroom, the one they called the bonus room that barely fit a full bed and a dresser. 22 years cooking, cleaning, doing laundry, ironing Brandon's work shirts. 22 years handing over my entire $1,400 Social Security check every month without question. Brandon said it was to help with the household expenses, but I knew he earned over $120,000 a year as a civil engineer. And Stephanie also worked part-time at an upscale boutique in the mall, probably pulling in another $30,000. They drove matching BMWs, for heaven's sake. 22 years feeling like an intruder in the house I helped buy. Because yes, when I sold my little ranch and gave Brandon $240,000, he promised it was a loan. I'll pay you back in 3 years, Imam, when I get my senior engineer promotion. I promise. That was 22 years ago. The promotion came. The money never returned. And when I dared to bring up the subject, Brandon would get irritated. Mom, you live here, don't you? That's worth way more than $240,000. Do you know what rent would cost you? Stop being so petty about money. Petty? Me? Who gave every cent I had for this son? I was petty. Sunday dinner was ready. I set everything on the dining table as I always did, the good china that Stephanie insisted on using for Sunday meals. Brandon and Stephanie came to sit down without even acknowledging me. It was routine. I was the invisible servant. Mom, this pot roast is a little dry, Brandon said, cutting into the meat with visible disapproval. Sorry, sweetie. I'll cook it at a lower temperature next time. Stephanie rolled her eyes, not that discreetly. I saw it. I always saw it. I ate in silence, every bite heavy in my throat. My head was working through 1,000 thoughts a second. I had to do something. I couldn't keep living like this. I couldn't let them raid my bank account as if it were community property. After dinner, I washed the dishes while they went back to the family room to watch the Cowboys game. I heard Stephanie say she was going to the Galleria tomorrow afternoon. My heart sped up. She was going to use my card. They were really going to do it. I locked myself in my tiny bonus room. I sat on the edge of the bed and picked up my iPhone with trembling hands. I dialed the number for Bank of America, the one I had saved in my contacts years ago. Bank of America, this is Jessica speaking. How can I help you today? Good afternoon. I need to block my debit card immediately. My voice came out firm, firmer than I expected. Of course, ma'am. Can you tell me your full name and account number, please? I gave her all my details. I answered the security questions, confirmed my social security number and date of birth. Every second felt like an eternity. Understood, Mrs. Margaret Sullivan. Was there a problem with the card? Was it lost or stolen? Let's just say someone is trying to use it without my authorization. Perfect. I'm blocking it right now. As of this moment, no transactions can be processed. Would you like to request a new card? Yes, but don't mail it to this address. I'll pick it up in person at the branch on Mockingbird Lane next week. No problem, Mrs. Sullivan. Your card has been blocked as of 3:47 p.m. Central Time. Can I help you with anything else today? No, thank you very much. I hung up and held the phone to my chest. My heart was still pounding, but there was something new mixed with the fear. Was it relief? Empowerment? I didn't know what to call it, but for the first time in years, I had made a decision that was mine alone. I sat there for almost an hour, just breathing, thinking, processing. I heard Stephanie getting ready to leave the next afternoon, her designer heels clicking on the hardwood floor, her Kate Spade purse being rustled, the BMW key fob beeping. Bye, honey. I'm heading to the Galleria to pick up a few things. Your mom lent me her card, she called out cheerfully. Lent? What an interesting word to describe theft. Great, babe. Have fun. Don't spend it all in one place. Brandon answered with a laugh. The garage door opened and closed. The BMW's engine purred to life. The sound faded down the street. And I just sat there on my full-size bed in my bonus room, waiting. It didn't take long. Less than an hour later, my iPhone started ringing. It was Brandon. I didn't answer the first call. I let it ring until it went to voicemail. He called again. And again. And again. On the sixth call, I answered. Mom, where are you? His voice was agitated, nervous. In my room, Brandon. Why? Stephanie just called me from Neiman Marcus. She says your card is declined. Did you block it? Silence. A long, heavy silence stretched between us. I could hear his breathing on the other end of the line, impatient, waiting. I blocked it, I finally replied with a calm that surprised me. What do you mean you blocked it? Why would you do that? Because it's my card, Brandon. My money. And I did not authorize anyone to use it. Mom, don't start with this drama right now. Stephanie is at the register completely embarrassed. She already picked out like $3,000 worth of bathroom fixtures and decor. The sales associate is waiting. Do you have any idea how humiliating this is? I have an idea that you two tried to spend my money without asking me. That's what's humiliating. Stop being so dramatic. It was just a few things for the house. The house where you also live, in case you forgot. I took a deep breath. I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to lose my composure. Brandon, I heard you talking yesterday. I heard you say I live here rent-free, that I'm getting up there in years and don't need so much money. I heard you planning to spend $850,000 as if it were yours to spend. Silence on the other end. A different silence. The silence of someone who's been caught red-handed. Mom, it wasn't exactly like that. It was exactly like that, son. Every single word. And no, I am not unblocking the card. Tell Stephanie to come home. The three of us need to have a conversation. I hung up before he could answer. My hands were shaking, but a new strength was growing inside me. A strength I didn't know I still had at 68 years old. Half an hour later, I heard Stephanie's BMW pull into the garage. The door from the garage to the house opened with so much force it hit the wall. Her heels echoed furiously on the floor. Where is your mother? Her voice was laced with venom. Stephanie, please calm down. Let's talk about this like adults. Calm down? Calm down? Your mother just caused me the biggest embarrassment of my entire life. There were at least 30 people in that store watching the salesgirl swipe the card over and over. I had to leave $3,000 worth of items there and walk out. Do you know how that felt? I got up from the bed. I smoothed my slacks and cardigan. I took a deep breath and opened the door to my room. I walked to the family room where they both were. Stephanie stared at me with eyes full of rage. Brandon was sitting on the sectional looking profoundly uncomfortable. We need to talk, I said, keeping my voice calm and measured. Talk? Stephanie took a step toward me. You humiliated me. You made me look like a fool in front of everyone. I didn't humiliate you, Stephanie. You tried to spend my money without my permission. In most states, that's called theft. Theft? We're family, Margaret. Families share. That's what families do. Families don't steal, Stephanie. Families ask. Families respect boundaries. And you didn't ask me for anything. You just took my card as if I didn't exist, as if my opinion didn't matter. Mom, come on. Brandon finally chimed in. Stephanie was just going to buy some things we really need, new bathroom fixtures, some furniture upgrades, things to improve the house we all live in. $850,000 on bathroom fixtures and furniture? And that seems reasonable to you, Brandon? You have that money just sitting there in savings. You're not using it for anything. We work hard. We pay all the bills for this house. We support you. It's only fair that we use some of that money to improve our quality of life. Those words. We support you. As if I were a charity case, an obligation, a burden on their household budget. You support me? My voice came out higher than I intended. I give you my entire Social Security check every month. $1,400 that you never account for. I cook. I clean. I do laundry. I iron your dress shirts, Brandon. I do everything in this house without receiving a single penny in return. How exactly is that you supporting me? That $1,400 barely covers your food and utilities, Stephanie replied with disdain. If you actually looked at the household budget, you'd see what a deal you're getting. Then let me leave. Let me get my own apartment and stop being such a financial burden on you both. I saw Brandon and Stephanie exchange a quick glance, a look I couldn't quite decipher at the time, but which I understood perfectly later. They needed my Social Security check. They needed my free labor. And they definitely wanted access to my savings. Mom, nobody said you were a burden. Don't be so dramatic, Brandon said, but his voice had no conviction whatsoever. You said I'm getting up there in years and don't need money. You said I live here rent-free. If that's not calling me a burden, then what is it? Look, Margaret. Stephanie crossed her arms across her chest. Let's be honest here. You don't have anywhere else to go. You don't have other children. You have no family left. Your friends are all in the same boat as you, or worse, most of them are in nursing homes. What are you going to do? Live alone in some depressing apartment? Eat microwave dinners by yourself? Die alone with nobody to find you for days? Her words were like slaps, each one calculated to hurt, to make me feel small, helpless, out of options. I'd rather be alone in peace than live with people who make me miserable, I replied, surprising myself with my own courage. Oh, so dramatic. Nobody is making you miserable. We give you everything, a roof over your head, food, cable TV, Wi-Fi. But of course, nothing is ever enough for you, is it? Stephanie said with dripping sarcasm. You don't give me anything. I pay with my Social Security, with my labor, with my dignity. And this conversation is over. I'm not changing my mind about the card. I turned around and went back to my room. I locked the door and leaned against it, listening to the two of them continue arguing outside. Stephanie blaming Brandon for being too soft with me. Brandon trying to calm her down. Both of them talking about me as if I were a problem to be solved, an obstacle to be overcome. I sat on the bed and picked up my phone. There was only one person I could call right now. My friend Dorothy from church. Margaret? Is everything all right? It's nearly 9 p.m. on a Monday. Dorothy answered, her voice full of concern. And then I fell apart. I told her everything, from the conversation I overheard on Sunday to the fight that had just happened. I cried on the phone like I hadn't cried in years, ugly crying with hiccups and everything. Dorothy let me talk, let it all out without interrupting. "Margaret, listen to me very carefully," she said when I finally ran out of words and tears. "Tomorrow morning, you are going to pack a bag and come stay with me. You can stay here as long as you need while you figure out your next steps. You cannot stay in that house another day. It's destroying your spirit, honey." "Dorothy, I can't impose on you like that. You live in a one-bedroom apartment. I have a sleeper sofa in the living room that's more comfortable than staying in that toxic environment. Tomorrow, Margaret. This isn't a request, it's a demand from someone who loves you. Promise me." I promise." "Good. Now try to get some sleep. Tomorrow is the first day of the rest of your life." I couldn't sleep that night. I lay on the full-size bed, staring at the popcorn ceiling of my bonus room, replaying every moment that had brought me here. I remembered when I sold my ranch house. It wasn't much, 1,400 square feet, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, but it was mine. I had bought it at 43 years old with a VA loan, using my late husband's veteran status. I paid the mortgage faithfully for 18 years. Every room had been furnished little by little with garage sale fines and layaway payments. But when Brandon married Stephanie and said they wanted a bigger house in a better school district, even though they didn't have kids yet, and that they didn't have enough for the down payment, I didn't think twice. I sold my little ranch for $240,000 and gave it all to him. "It's a loan, Mom. I'll pay you back in 3 years when I get promoted to senior engineer. I promise on Dad's grave." 3 years turned into 6, then 12, then 18, and now 22. The loan became a favor. It became "you have a place to live, that's worth more than $240,000, and Mom." As if my home, my achievement, my security was only worth room and board in the smallest bedroom. When I first moved into their house, this 3,800 square foot suburban palace in Plano, Stephanie showed me to the bonus room upstairs. "It's a bit cozy, Mom Sullivan, but it's just temporary. Soon you'll want your own space again, I'm sure. Most people your age prefer independence." She had said it with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Temporary. 22 years of temporary. When dawn broke on Tuesday, I got up earlier than usual. I showered, got dressed in my nicest pants and blouse, and started packing my suitcase. I didn't have many things. Practical clothes from Kohl's and Target, a few pairs of sensible shoes, old photographs in frames, important documents. Everything fit into 2 medium-sized suitcases I'd bought at a garage sale years ago. I prepared breakfast as always: his coffee, scrambled eggs, toast, bacon. I left everything on the kitchen counter like a continental breakfast at a Hampton Inn. But this time I didn't stay to serve them. I went back to my room and waited. I heard when Brandon and Stephanie woke up. I heard their footsteps around the house, their muffled voices talking. Neither of them knocked on my door to check on me, as usual. I was only noticed when I failed to perform my duties. Brandon left for his engineering firm at 7:45 a.m. Stephanie left for the boutique at 8:30 a.m. When her BMW disappeared down the cul-de-sac, I grabbed my suitcases and walked out the front door of that house for the last time. I left the house key on the marble-topped console table in the foyer. Next to it, I placed a note I had written during my sleepless night. "Brandon, I'm leaving. I can no longer live in a house where my only value is my bank account. Thank you for these 22 years, but I need to reclaim my dignity. When I'm settled in my new place, I'll send you my address. I love you, but I need to love myself more. Mom." I called an Uber and waited on the sidewalk with my 2 suitcases. The next-door neighbor, Mrs. Chen, was getting her mail and saw me. "Good morning, Margaret. Going on a trip?" "Something like that, Mrs. Chen. Something like that." The Uber arrived in 8 minutes, a nice man named Carlos driving a Toyota Camry. He helped me with the suitcases and didn't ask questions when he saw my red-rimmed eyes. As we drove away, I looked out the window at the house where I had lived for 22 years. A beautiful house, 3,800 square feet of suburban perfection, professionally landscaped, 2-story with a 3-car garage. But it was never my house. It was my prison with crown molding and granite countertops. Dorothy was waiting for me at her apartment building's entrance when I arrived. She hugged me so tightly I could barely breathe. And in that hug, I let out all the tears I had been holding back since leaving. "You're here. You're safe now, honey," she whispered, stroking my silver hair. Dorothy's apartment was indeed small, maybe 700 square feet total, living room, bedroom, kitchenette, and bathroom. But it was clean, filled with sunlight, and most importantly, filled with peace. There was no tension in the air, no judgmental looks, no cruel words waiting around every corner. "The sleeper sofa is all yours, sweetie. It's not the Ritz-Carlton, but it's comfortable. And this home is your home for as long as you need it," Dorothy said as she showed me where I could put my things. We spent the morning getting me settled. Dorothy made space in her closet for my clothes. She showed me where everything was in the kitchenette. She made me feel welcome in 1,000 small but significant ways. Around 1 p.m., my iPhone started ringing. It was Brandon. I didn't answer. He called again. And again. And again. On the 11th call, he left a voicemail. I put it on speaker so Dorothy could hear too. "Mom, where are you? I came home for lunch and you're not here. I saw your note. Please call me back. I'm worried. This is crazy, Mom. We need to talk about this like adults. Please." Worried? How interesting that he was worried now, after 22 years of taking me for granted. Dorothy looked at me with understanding in her eyes. "Are you going to call him back?" "Not yet. I need to think clearly first. I need to know what I'm going to do with my life before I talk to him." I turned off the phone completely. I needed silence, peace, time to process everything and decide my next steps. In the afternoon, Dorothy and I sat on her small balcony with sweet tea, proper Texas sweet tea. From there, you could see the parking lot and a bit of the park beyond. Life was happening down below. "You know what hurts the most, Dorothy?" I said after a long silence. "It's not the money they tried to spend. It's not even the disrespect. What hurts the most is realizing that I spent 22 years trying to earn back my son's love and appreciation. And now I see that his love was always conditional on what I could give him." Dorothy took my hand in hers. Wrinkled hands like mine, marked by age spots and arthritis, but strong and warm. "Margaret, you didn't spend 22 years trying to earn his love. You gave 22 years of unconditional love. That's very different. The problem isn't you, honey. The problem is that Brandon and that woman didn't know how to value what they had, a mother who would give them everything. But I'm his mother. Mothers are supposed to sacrifice for their children. Yes, mothers love their children. But children must also love and respect their mothers. Love isn't a one-way street, Margaret. And sacrifice has a limit. When the sacrifice is destroying your soul, it's not love anymore. It's self-destruction." She was right, as she always was. Dorothy had been my friend since we met at First Baptist Church over 25 years ago. She knew me better than anyone, better even than Brandon ever bothered to. "Now you need to think about yourself," Dorothy continued. About what Margaret wants. About what Margaret needs to be happy in whatever years the good Lord gives us. I want my own apartment, I said, surprising myself with how quickly the words came. I want my own place where nobody makes me feel like I'm in the way. Where I can have my morning coffee without feeling like I'm using someone else's electricity. Where I can watch whatever I want on TV without someone sighing dramatically. Then that's what we're going to get you, honey. Tomorrow we start apartment hunting. My nephew works in real estate, I'll give him a call tonight. That night, I slept on Dorothy's sleeper sofa. Despite it being just a sofa bed in a small living room, it was the best night's sleep I'd had in years. There was no tension, no fear of hearing footsteps approaching with complaints, no anxiety about tomorrow's inevitable criticisms. There was only peace. Sweet, beautiful peace. Wednesday morning dawned bright and clear. I woke up without an alarm, something I hadn't done in decades. It was almost 9 a.m. when I opened my eyes. The last time I slept that late was... I couldn't even remember when. Dorothy was already up, had been to the bakery, and was making coffee in her little kitchenette. The smell brought me a sense of warmth I hadn't felt in so long. Good morning, sleepyhead. Fresh coffee and kolaches from the Czech bakery down the street. Today is apartment hunting day, she said with a bright smile that was contagious. We had coffee together, talking about everything and nothing. No pressure, no complaints, no tension. Just two old friends sharing a quiet morning. Afterward, we got ready and Dorothy's nephew Jeffrey picked us up. He was a sweet man in his 40s who worked for a local real estate agency. Aunt Dorothy told me what you're looking for, Mrs. Sullivan. I've got 4 properties lined up that should work with your budget. All 1-bedrooms, all in safe neighborhoods with good walkability. Let's go find you a home. The first apartment was too dark, basement level with tiny windows that barely let in any natural light. The second was in a complex that looked run down, with a suspicious smell in the hallways that I couldn't quite identify. The third was perfect in terms of size and light, but it was on the 4th floor with no elevator, and my knees with their arthritis couldn't handle that many stairs every day. But the fourth one stole my heart the moment I walked in. It was an apartment on the 2nd floor of a well-maintained 1970s complex in Richardson. It had a living room with a large window that overlooked a courtyard with actual trees, a galley kitchen that was small but functional, a decent-sized bedroom, and a clean bathroom. It wasn't huge, maybe 750 square feet total. But it was cozy, filled with natural light, and it had good energy. I could feel it the moment I stepped inside. How much are they asking? I asked Jeffrey. $185,000. It includes 1 assigned parking space and access to the community pool and clubhouse. The HOA is $280 a month, which covers water, trash, exterior maintenance, and the amenities. $185,000. I could pay in cash and still have $665,000 left over to live comfortably, to have a cushion for emergencies, to have peace of mind in my remaining years. Can I see it again? I want to walk through one more time. I walked through each room slowly, imagining my life there. My bed in the bedroom, maybe I'd finally buy a queen size instead of that cramped full. My few clothes in the bedroom closet. My photographs on the walls. I imagined making coffee in that little kitchen, sitting by that window reading my library books, sleeping soundly without tension. I saw my future in those empty walls. And that future was bright. I want it, I said with a firmness that surprised even me. I'm going to buy it. Jeffrey smiled broadly. Excellent decision, Mrs. Sullivan. This unit has great bones, it was recently updated with new flooring and fresh paint. The previous owner lived here for 12 years. She only sold because she was moving to assisted living. We talked about the paperwork, about the necessary documents, about inspections and closing timelines. Jeffrey gave me the contact information for a real estate attorney he trusted who could handle all the legal details. We left the apartment and Dorothy hugged me tight right there in the parking lot. "You did it, Margaret. You're going to have your own home." "I'm going to have my own home," I repeated, feeling tears of joy streaming down my face. We returned to Dorothy's apartment, both of us excited and emotional, making plans for decorating, talking about what furniture I'd need to buy. It was then, in the midst of that happiness, that I decided to turn on my iPhone. I had 52 missed calls from Brandon, 31 from Stephanie, and over 75 text messages. The first messages were worried. "Mom, where are you? Please answer. We're really worried here. At least tell us you're okay." But soon the tone changed. "Mom, this is ridiculous. Stop the drama. We need to resolve this like adults." And the last ones were almost threatening. "If you don't answer by tonight, I'm going to file a missing person report. This is elder abandonment or something. You can't just disappear." Dorothy read the messages over my shoulder and made an indignant sound in her throat. "Elder abandonment? As if you abandoned a dependent child. You're 68 years old, Margaret. You're an independent adult with full mental capacity. Lord have mercy. I need to respond to him, but by text. I don't want to hear his voice yet. I'm not ready for that manipulation." I sat on the sleeper sofa and wrote a long message, choosing each word carefully. "Brandon, I'm fine. I'm in a safe place with a good friend. I needed to leave that house to preserve my mental health and dignity. For 22 years, I lived feeling like a burden, and what happened with my card was the final straw. I've put an offer on my own apartment. I'll be moving in next month. This isn't a punishment for you. It's a decision of self-respect and self-preservation. When I'm settled, I'll send you my address. I love you, but I need to love myself more. Mom." I pressed send before I could second-guess myself. I saw the 2 check marks indicating the message was delivered. Then they turned blue, showing he had read it. The 3 dots appeared, indicating he was typing. They disappeared. Appeared again. Disappeared again. Finally, after 5 agonizing minutes, the reply came. "Mom, this is insane. You can't just buy an apartment like that at your age. Who's going to take care of you if you fall? Who's going to help you if you get sick? And Stephanie is extremely upset. She says you owe her an apology for the embarrassment at Neiman Marcus. We need you to come back home so we can talk about this face to face like adults. This is our family we're talking about." I read the message 3 times. No apology from him. No acknowledgement of what they had tried to do, of the hurtful words, of the 22 years of taking me for granted. Just more manipulation, more guilt-tripping, more attempts to make me feel like I was the unreasonable one. "Are you going to answer?" Dorothy asked gently. "I am." I wrote a short, clear reply. "Brandon, I'm 68 years old, not 98. I'm perfectly capable of taking care of myself. I've been doing it my whole life. And I do not owe Stephanie an apology. She tried to spend $850,000 of MY money without MY permission. If anyone owes apologies, it's you too. We'll talk when I'm ready. Until then, please respect my decision. Mom." After sending it, I turned the phone off again. I didn't want to read any more attempts at manipulation or guilt trips. Sunday was a day of absolute peace. I woke up naturally at 9 a.m., no alarm, no anxiety. Dorothy and I went to the 11 a.m. service at First Baptist, something I hadn't been able to do in years because Sunday mornings were when I had to prepare Stephanie's elaborate brunch spread for any guests they might have over. Afterward, we had lunch at Luby's cafeteria, my treat. We got the fried fish, mac and cheese, green beans, and their famous rolls. We sat in a booth and talked about life, about faith, about second chances. You know what I've been thinking? Dorothy said as she buttered her roll. God has a way of closing doors we're afraid to close ourselves. Sometimes he has to push us out of our comfort zone, even if that comfort zone is actually prison, so we can finally fly. I spent 22 years thinking I was being a good Christian mother by sacrificing everything, I said quietly. Turning the other cheek, honoring my child, all of that. But somewhere along the way, I forgot that I'm also a child of God with value and worth. Exactly right, honey. Jesus said to love your neighbor as yourself, as yourself. That means you have to love yourself too. You can't pour from an empty cup. You can't give dignity if yours has been stripped away. After lunch, we stopped at the Goodwill and a couple of estate sales. I found a beautiful oak coffee table for only $40. The family running the estate sale helped me load it into Jeffrey's truck. He'd offered to haul my purchases to a storage unit until closing day. I also found a set of pots and pans in excellent condition for $25, some Corelle dishes, drinking glasses, and a set of burgundy bath towels that looked barely used. Dorothy insisted on buying me a brand new sheet set from Target as a gift. So you can start your new life with fresh sheets, no history, no bad memories, she said as she paid at the register. I couldn't hold back tears of gratitude right there in the middle of Target. We stored everything in a climate-controlled storage unit that Jeffrey helped me rent, $65 a month for a 5x10 unit, just until closing day. On Monday morning, I met with the real estate attorney Jeffrey had recommended. Her name was Linda Chen, a sharp woman in her 50s who specialized in real estate transactions and elder law. She reviewed all my documents with meticulous care, my driver's license, my social security card, my bank statements proving funds, the purchase agreement Jeffrey had drafted. Mrs. Sullivan, everything is in order. The apartment has no liens, no outstanding debts, clear title. The HOA financials are healthy. We can close on this purchase in 3 weeks if the inspection goes smoothly. Are you certain you want to pay cash? At current interest rates, you could finance part of it and keep more liquid assets. No, I want to pay cash. I want it to be completely mine with no mortgage, no payments, no strings attached. I've waited my whole life for this moment. Linda smiled warmly. I completely understand. Then 3 weeks from Friday at 10 a.m., we'll meet here to sign all the closing documents. You'll need to bring a cashier's check for $185,000 plus approximately $8,500 for closing costs, title insurance, and prorated HOA fees. That $2,000 earnest money you already deposited will be credited toward the purchase price. $193,500 total. Less than a quarter of my life savings. I could do this. I was going to do this. I left Linda's office feeling stronger and more empowered than I had in decades. I walked through Richardson's downtown area, looking at everything with new eyes, the coffee shops, the library, the boutiques, the people going about their lives. Everything seemed different when you were building your own life instead of just surviving in someone else's. When I got back to Dorothy's apartment that afternoon, I briefly turned on my iPhone to check messages. Brandon had sent only one more, and the tone had completely shifted. Mom, I talked to Stephanie. We both think we overreacted. She's willing to apologize if you apologize too. We can forget this whole misunderstanding if you come back today. We miss you. The house isn't the same without you. Please think carefully before you make an irreversible mistake. You're going to regret this. An irreversible mistake. As if buying my own home, achieving independence and dignity at 68, was something to regret. I didn't reply. I had nothing more to say to him right then. The time for words had passed. Now was the time for action. The following days were a beautiful blur of preparation and anticipation. Dorothy and I kept shopping for apartment essentials. A gently used love seat we found at an estate sale for $175. A beautiful queen-size bed frame from a consignment shop for $120. A bookshelf, some lamps, a set of kitchen utensils from HomeGoods. I also went to Bank of America to arrange the cashier's check for closing. The branch manager, a kind young woman named Amanda Rodriguez, was incredibly helpful. Mrs. Sullivan, that's a substantial amount. I just want to verify this is a legitimate transaction. We've had issues with elderly customers being targeted by scams, and I'd never forgive myself if. It's not a scam, sweetheart, I interrupted gently. I'm buying my first home at 68 years old. It's probably the most legitimate thing I've ever done. Amanda's face broke into a huge smile. Oh my goodness, that's wonderful. Congratulations. My abuela did the same thing at 70 after leaving my abuelo. She always said those were the best years of her life, finally living for herself. Those words filled my heart with so much hope. It wasn't too late. It would never be too late to choose yourself. On Thursday evening, 2 days before my scheduled closing, Brandon showed up at Dorothy's apartment complex. I still don't know how he got the address. He probably hired someone to track my phone, or maybe he called every Dorothy at First Baptist until he found the right one. He buzzed the intercom insistently until Dorothy answered. Who is it? It's Brandon Sullivan. Margaret's son. I need to talk to my mother. Now. I heard his voice over the intercom, tight with barely controlled anger. Dorothy looked at me, asking with her eyes what I wanted to do. I took a deep breath. Let him come up. But please stay with me. Dorothy nodded firmly. I'm not going anywhere, honey. Minutes later, Brandon was knocking, no, pounding, on the door. When I opened it, I was shocked to see him looking so haggard. Deep dark circles under his eyes, a wrinkled polo shirt, jeans instead of his usual pressed khakis, hair uncombed. He didn't look like the successful civil engineer who drove a BMW and lived in a McMansion. Mom. His voice cracked. Brandon, I replied calmly, not stepping aside, not inviting him in. Can we please talk? Really talk? We can talk right here. This is fine. He sighed heavily, running a hand through his messy hair. Mom, this has gotten completely out of control. I know Stephanie and I made a mistake. We shouldn't have taken your card without asking first. But you didn't have to run away like this, disappear without really telling us where you were going, making us worry ourselves sick. Brandon, I left a note explaining exactly why I left. It wasn't an impulse decision. It was necessary for my mental health and dignity. But we're family, Mom. Families forgive each other. Families work through problems together, not by running away and cutting off contact. Families also respect each other, son. And you and Stephanie haven't respected me for years. I was just so beaten down and used to it that I stopped noticing. Or maybe I didn't want to notice. We don't respect you? Mom, we gave you a roof over your head, a food, everything you needed. You gave me a bonus room the size of a closet, I interrupted, my voice rising despite my intention to stay calm. You made me feel like every bite of food was a favor you were doing for me. You treated me like a housekeeper, not a mother. You took my $1,400 Social Security check every single month for 22 years without accounting for where it went. And when I had life savings from 48 years of hard work, You tried to steal it to remodel your bathroom and buy Italian leather furniture. We weren't going to steal it. $850,000 isn't borrowing, Brandon. It's theft. And I never, not once, authorized you to touch my money. He fell silent, his jaw working as he processed my words. I could see his mind racing, trying to find a new angle of manipulation. What about the money from the house? He finally said, his voice taking on an edge. The $240,000 you gave me 22 years ago for the down payment? How much do you have left after buying this apartment? And there it was. The real reason for his visit. Not concern for his mother. Not love. Not remorse. Just concern about my money, about what he might be able to get from me. That's none of your business, Brandon. Of course it's my business. I'm your son. Your only child. I'm your family. I have a right to know how you're managing your finances at your age. Elderly people make poor decisions all the time, they get confused, they fall for scams. I'm just trying to protect you. At my age? I felt my anger rising. I'm 68 years old, not 98. I have full mental capacity. I've managed my money successfully for nearly 5 decades. I don't need your protection, Brandon. What I needed was your love and respect, and you couldn't give me that. Mom, that money from the house, that $240,000, that's really partly mine when you think about it. I housed you for 22 years. I fed you, paid your utilities, gave you a home. That has value. If we actually calculated it all out, rent plus food plus utilities, you probably owe me money. So really, I don't owe you anything. We're even. Those words hit me like a physical blow. Dorothy stepped forward, her small frame rigid with anger. I think you need to leave now, young man. Your mother has made her decision, and you have absolutely no right to her money or her life choices. You stay out of this, Brandon snapped. This is between my mother and me. You're nobody, just some church lady sticking your nose where it doesn't belong. This is my home, and I can get involved whenever I want, Dorothy said firmly. And I'm asking you to leave, or I'm calling the police for trespassing. Brandon looked at me with a mixture of desperation and rage. Is this what you want, Mom? Letting strangers poison you against your own family? Destroying everything we have? Regina is not a stranger, I said quietly but firmly. Dorothy has been my friend for 25 years. She was there for me before you met Stephanie. Before you decided I was only valuable for my bank account. And no, Brandon, I'm not destroying our family. The family was destroyed when you stopped seeing me as your mother and started seeing me as an ATM machine and a live-in maid. I can't believe you're doing this. His voice broke, but I couldn't tell if it was genuine emotion or manipulation. Stephanie was right about you all along. She said you were selfish, that you only thought about yourself, that you'd turn on me eventually. I defended you. What a fool I was. Those words should have hurt more than they did. But they mostly just confirmed everything I already knew. Stephanie had been poisoning my son against me for years, and he'd been a willing participant. If that's what you truly think of me, I said, my voice steady, then it's better that I'm out of your life. I don't want to be a burden or a source of conflict for anyone. Fine. Perfect. Go live in your little apartment, be alone, but don't come running back when you get sick or fall or need help. Don't come crying to me when you realize what a huge mistake you've made. You'll be all alone, and you'll deserve it. Brandon, I called out as he turned to storm away. He stopped but didn't turn around. I love you. I will always love you. You're my son, and nothing can change that. But I can no longer sacrifice my dignity and mental health for your comfort and convenience. I hope someday you understand. I pray that you will. He didn't answer. He just kept walking to the elevator. I watched the doors close, taking my son away, possibly forever. Dorothy hugged me as I finally allowed myself to cry, deep, wrenching sobs that came from a place of profound loss but also profound relief. I cried for the 22 lost years, for the relationship that could have been but never was, for the family that existed only in my imagination. But I also cried with relief because I knew, deep in my heart, that I had made the right decision. I had finally chosen myself. I barely slept the night before closing. I tossed and turned on Dorothy's sleeper sofa, alternating between excitement and anxiety, between hope and lingering doubt. Was I doing the right thing? Was I being selfish? Should I have tried harder with Brandon? But every time I thought about going back, I remembered the bonus room, the 22 years of invisible labor, the cruel words, the attempted theft of my life savings. No. I couldn't go back. For the first time in my life, I was choosing Margaret. And that wasn't selfish, it was survival. Friday dawned bright and beautiful, one of those perfect Texas autumn days with crystal clear blue skies. Dorothy and I got dressed in our Sunday best. This was a celebration, after all. This is one of the most important days of your life, Margaret, Dorothy said as she helped me with my necklace clasp. You're not experiencing it alone. I'm right here with you every step of the way. We arrived at Linda Chen's office 15 minutes early. Jeffrey was already there, along with the seller's agent and a representative from the title company. Everyone was smiling, the atmosphere almost festive. Good morning, Mrs. Sullivan. Linda greeted me warmly. Are you ready to become a homeowner? More ready than I've ever been for anything. The closing process took almost 2 hours. I signed so many documents my hand cramped, the deed, the settlement statement, the HOA documents, tax forms, disclosure forms. Linda patiently explained each one, making sure I understood what I was signing. When it came time to hand over the cashier's check for $193,500, my hand trembled slightly. It represented decades of sacrifice, of early mornings and late nights, of saying no to small pleasures to build security. But I looked at Dorothy, who was beaming with pride, and I thought about the apartment, my apartment, waiting for me. I placed the check on the table with a steady hand. The title company representative reviewed everything, processed the payment, and Linda finalized all the paperwork. Very well, Mrs. Margaret Sullivan. As of this moment, you are the official owner of 2B at Meadowbrook Apartments in Richardson, Texas. Here is your deed with your name on it, your keys, and all the HOA documents. Congratulations on your new home. I took the keys, 2 brass keys on a simple ring, and held them as if they were made of gold. To me, they were more valuable than gold. These keys represented freedom, dignity, independence, and a new chapter. Thank you, Linda. Thank you all so much, I said, my voice thick with emotion. We left the office and Dorothy actually shouted with joy right there on the sidewalk. You did it. Margaret Sullivan, you took your life back at 68 years old. We spun around on the sidewalk like 2 teenagers. People walking by stared. Some smiled, seeing our obvious joy. An elderly man walking his dog stopped and asked what we were celebrating. I just bought my first home, I said, bursting with pride. Well, congratulations, young lady. It's never too late to start living the life you deserve. Enjoy every minute of it. We drove straight to the apartment, my apartment. I put the key in the lock with trembling hands, turned it, and pushed the door open. The apartment was exactly as I remembered it, empty, clean, sunlight streaming through the windows, full of possibility. But now it felt different. Now it was mine. My space. My sanctuary. I walked slowly through each room, touching the walls, opening closets, looking out the windows at the courtyard below. This was where I would live my life. This was where I would be free. It's absolutely perfect, Margaret, Dorothy said, tears streaming down her face. Just perfect. Yes, I whispered. It really is. We spent the rest of the day deep cleaning every surface, even though it was already clean. We wanted it to be absolutely spotless. On Saturday, Jeffrey organized a small moving operation. He brought his truck and recruited 2 friends from his church. Mrs. Sullivan, any friend of Aunt Dorothy's, is family. You just pay for lunch, the labor is our gift to you. I gave them $150 despite their protests. It was the least I could do. By 2 p.m., the apartment was fully furnished. It wasn't designer showroom beautiful, but it was cozy and comfortable in mine. The curtains Dorothy helped me hang gave it warmth. The few framed photographs I'd brought gave it personality. My small collection of plants on the kitchen windowsill gave it life. Dorothy insisted on staying to help me organize the kitchen. We arranged pots, pans, dishes, silverware, spices. Every drawer and cabinet had its purpose. Tomorrow after church we're going to Kroger to fill your refrigerator and pantry, she announced, wiping down the shelves. Dorothy, you've already done so much. And I'm going to keep doing it because that's what real family does. We support each other. Besides, you'd do exactly the same for me. She was absolutely right. I would. That night, my first night in my own home, Dorothy left around 8 p.m. after making sure approximately 1,000 times that I would be okay alone. I stood in the middle of my living room, slowly turning in a circle, taking it all in. The love seat facing the window. The coffee table I'd found at the estate sale. The small TV Jeffrey had given me. I upgraded. Mrs. Sullivan, you might as well have this one. The bookshelf waiting to be filled with library books. All of it mine. Finally, truly mine. I made a cup of chamomile tea in my kitchen, and sat in my armchair by the window. The courtyard was lit with soft landscape lighting. A couple was walking their golden retriever. Some kids were playing on the playground even though it was getting dark. For the first time in 22 years, maybe for the first time in my entire adult life, I felt no anxiety. No tension. No fear of footsteps approaching with complaints or demands. No walking on eggshells. No feeling like I was in the way. Just peace. Beautiful, profound peace. I let myself cry one more time. But these tears were different. They were tears of relief, of gratitude, of hope, of joy. I had done it. I had saved myself. At 68 years old, I had finally put myself first. Sunday was the most peaceful day I'd experienced in decades. I woke up naturally at 9:30 a.m., letting my body rest as much as it needed. No alarm. No rushing. No anxiety about preparing someone else's breakfast. The first thing I saw was the ceiling of my own bedroom. My bedroom. In my home. I got up slowly, stretching, taking my time. I made coffee in my kitchen using the Mr. Coffee Maker Dorothy had given me as a housewarming gift. The aroma filled my small apartment and made me smile so wide my cheeks hurt. I took my coffee to the window and just sat there for over an hour, just watching the world, thinking, feeling, existing without purpose or pressure. Dorothy picked me up at 10:45 for the 11 a.m. service at First Baptist. Afterward, we went to Kroger as promised. We filled a cart with groceries, coffee, bread, eggs, chicken, vegetables, pasta, canned goods, paper products. Everything I needed to start my new life. Don't forget treats, Dorothy said, tossing a package of Oreos in the cart. You're living for yourself now. You're allowed to have cookies. That simple statement, you're allowed to have cookies, made me tear up right there in aisle 7. For 22 years, I'd felt like I needed permission for everything. Now I could buy Oreos if I wanted. I could eat dinner at 5 p.m. or 9 p.m. I could watch whatever I wanted on TV. I could exist on my own terms. We had lunch at her apartment, she'd made a pot of vegetable soup, and talked about life, about second chances, about grace. "Have you heard anything from Brandon?" Dorothy asked carefully as we washed the dishes. "No. And I don't expect to anytime soon. He made his feelings very clear. He thinks I'm selfish and that I'll regret this. Maybe he'll never understand. Maybe our relationship is permanently broken. I have to accept that possibility. Does it hurt? Like you can't imagine. He's my son. My only child. It will always hurt. But you know what? The pain of losing him is less than the pain of losing myself. And I'd already lost myself. I'd been lost for 22 years. Dorothy nodded, understanding completely. The following weeks were about adjustment and discovery. I learned my building's rhythms, when the mailman came, when it was quietest, when the courtyard was busy with kids playing. I met my neighbors. Mrs. Gonzalez in 2A was a 72-year-old widow who loved to garden. She promised to teach me about container gardening for my little patio. Mr. and Mrs. Patterson in 2C were a retired couple in their 70s who played dominoes every Thursday and invited me to join. The young couple in 1B, Tyler and Jessica, had a newborn baby girl. They were always walking around the courtyard. They reminded me of what Brandon and Stephanie could have been if they'd been kinder people. I discovered the neighborhood. There was a Kroger 3 blocks away. A wonderful little family-owned Mexican restaurant called Rosita's just around the corner. A dollar store, a library branch, a CVS pharmacy, all within easy walking distance. I created a simple but satisfying routine. I'd wake up around 8 a.m., make coffee, eat breakfast while watching the morning news. Then I'd tidy up my apartment, which never took long since it was small and it was just me. Some days I'd walk to the library. Other days I'd work on a puzzle at my coffee table. On Thursdays I played dominoes with the Pattersons and 2 other couples from the building. Dorothy and I had lunch together every Wednesday, alternating between our apartments. On Sundays we went to church together and then out to lunch, our standing date. I also joined a quilting circle at the church. 7 women, all between 62 and 79, meeting every Tuesday afternoon to work on quilts for charity. I hadn't sewn in years, but my hands remembered the motions. It felt good to create something beautiful, to be part of a group where I was valued. 6 weeks after I moved into my apartment, I received a text from Brandon. It was a Tuesday evening. I was working on a quilt square, listening to a Golden Girls rerun, perfectly content. My phone buzzed. I almost didn't look at it. I'd gotten used to the peace of not being constantly available. But something made me check. "Mom. Stephanie and I are getting divorced. You were right about her. She was only ever interested in money and status. Now that she realizes she's not getting access to your savings, she's filing for divorce. She's demanding half of everything, including the house. I'm so sorry for everything, for not listening to you, for treating you the way I did, for letting her turn me against you. I've been going to therapy. Can I please visit you? I need to see you." I read the message 3 times. Part of me, the mother part that had loved this boy since before he was born, wanted to immediately text back, "Yes, come right now, I forgive you." But the part of me that had learned self-preservation, the part that had survived 22 years of emotional abuse, urged caution. I took a screenshot and texted it to Dorothy. She called me immediately. "What are you going to do?" "I don't know. I want to see him. He's my son. But I'm also terrified of falling back into old patterns, of letting him manipulate me again. Then set boundaries, Dorothy said firmly. See him, but on your terms. In your space. With clear limits. She was right, as always. I wrote back carefully. Brandon, I'm sorry to hear about the divorce, but perhaps it's for the best for both of you. You can visit me on Sunday at 2 p.m. Just you, not Stephanie. We'll talk calmly. I still love you. Mom. His reply came within seconds. Thank you, Mom. Thank you so much. I'll be there. I love you too. That Sunday, I was a nervous wreck. I cleaned my already clean apartment twice. I baked chocolate chip cookies from scratch. I changed clothes 3 times. Dorothy offered to stay with me for the visit, but I told her I needed to do this alone. At exactly 2 p.m., there was a knock on my door. I opened it to find Brandon looking like a different person. He'd lost weight, too much weight. His hair was graying at the temples. He looked older than 45, worn down by stress and regret. But his eyes were different. Softer. More vulnerable. Less entitled. Hi, Mom. Hi, sweetheart. Come in. We hugged in the doorway, a real hug, tight and long and meaningful. I felt him shaking slightly, or maybe that was me. I gave him a tour of my small apartment. He looked at everything carefully, respectfully. It's really nice, Mom. Small, but it's definitely you. It feels peaceful. It feels like home should feel. We sat at my little kitchen table by the window. I served coffee and cookies. For a few minutes, we just sat there, not quite knowing where to start. I've been in therapy for about 5 weeks now, Brandon finally began. My therapist has helped me see a lot of things I didn't want to see. How I repeated the same pattern with Stephanie that Dad did, letting a spouse mistreat you because I wanted peace in my marriage. How I took you for granted. How I used you. How I valued your money more than your presence. I stayed quiet, letting him talk. Stephanie filed for divorce 3 weeks ago. She said if she couldn't have access to your money, which she literally said was rightfully hers as family, then she didn't want to be married to me anymore. She said I was worthless without your financial support. She's demanding the house, half my retirement, alimony. She's trying to destroy me financially. I'm sorry, Brandon. Truly. Divorce is hard even when it's necessary. I deserve it, he said, his voice breaking. I deserve all of it. The way I treated you, Mom, you gave me everything. You sold your home for me. You gave me $240,000. You paid into my household for 22 years. You worked like a servant. And I treated you like you were worthless. Like your only value was your bank account. Tears were streaming down his face now. Can you forgive me? I know I don't deserve it. I know I can't undo 22 years of hurt. But I'm asking anyway. Can you forgive me? I reached across the table and took his hand that I'd held when he was a little boy, when he was scared or hurt or happy. Brandon, I already have forgiven you. Not because you deserve it, forgiveness isn't about deserving. I forgave you so I could be free from bitterness and resentment. So I could live in peace. Does that mean, can we try again? Can I be part of your life again? We can try, I said carefully. But things will be different. I have boundaries now. I have my own life. I won't be moving back into your house. I won't be giving you money. I won't be cooking and cleaning for you. If we rebuild our relationship, it will be as 2 independent adults, not as mother and dependent child. He nodded, wiping his eyes. I understand. I respect that. I just want to know you, Mom. The real you, not the version who sacrificed everything. I want to know what you like, what makes you happy, what you dream about. I've realized I don't actually know you at all. I only knew what you could do for me. We talked for 3 hours that afternoon. Really talked, maybe for the first time in decades. He told me about therapy, about what he was learning about himself, about how he was trying to become a better person. I told him about my quilting circle, about my neighbors, about my simple but peaceful life. When he left, we hugged again at the door. Can I visit again? Maybe every other Sunday, he asked hopefully. I'd like that, I said. And I meant it. Today, I'm 69 years old. I've been living in my apartment for just over a year now. I'm sitting in my armchair by the window, watching the sunset paint the sky orange and pink over the courtyard. I still have $656,500 in my savings account, untouched except for the apartment purchase. My apartment is completely paid off. My $1,400 Social Security check covers my modest expenses perfectly. I live simply but with complete dignity. Brandon visits every other Sunday, just like he promised. Our relationship isn't perfect, it probably never will be. We're still learning how to be honest with each other, how to have healthy boundaries. But it's real now. He asks about my life. He listens when I talk. He's learning to be a better son, and I'm learning to be a mother who doesn't sacrifice herself into non-existence. His divorce was finalized 3 months ago. He sold the McMansion and moved into a condo. He's learning to live within his means, to find happiness in simpler things. Sometimes I see glimpses of the little boy I raised, the one who existed before entitlement and materialism took over. Dorothy continues to be my rock, my chosen family, my best friend. We still have our Wednesday lunches and Sunday church dates. She's the sister I never had. The quilting circle has become one of my favorite parts of my week. We've made 17 quilts this year for various charities, homeless shelters, domestic violence safe houses, children's hospitals. Creating something beautiful for others brings me joy. I've also started taking walks in the park every morning, 30 minutes a day. It's become my sacred time. I listen to the birds, feel the Texas sun on my face, watch the world wake up. I'm even thinking about adopting a small dog for company. Mrs. Gonzalez keeps trying to convince me. My life isn't extraordinary or glamorous. I don't take luxury vacations or drive a fancy car. But I have something I didn't have for 22 years, peace. I have my own space where nobody makes me feel unwelcome. I have my own money that nobody tries to steal. I have my own life that nobody controls. Sometimes I look back and wonder what would have happened if I'd had the courage to leave sooner. But then I remember that every experience, even the painful ones, brought me here, to this moment of peace and self-possession. I'm 69 years old. I don't know how many years I have left, could be 5, could be 25. But I know that every single day I live in this apartment, in my own space, with my dignity intact, is a day that's truly mine. I've learned that it's never too late to start over. It's never too late to choose yourself. It's never too late to say no to what diminishes you and yes to what helps you grow. I've learned that real love, genuine family love, doesn't demand that you erase yourself. True family doesn't make you feel like a burden. Dignity is priceless. And I've learned, above all, that sometimes the greatest courage isn't in staying and enduring. It's in having the strength to leave and rebuild. It's in recognizing that survival and self-respect matter more than maintaining the appearance of family harmony. I look out the window and see a grandmother in the courtyard playing with her grandchildren. The kids are laughing, running around, and the grandmother is smiling with genuine joy. That's how family love should be: light, joyful, reciprocal, freely given and freely received. I take my cup of tea, still warm, and smile to myself. I smile for the journey, for the battles won, for the freedom earned. I smile because finally, at 69 years old, I learned to put my own name at the top of the list of people I need to care for. And that, I've discovered, isn't selfishness. It's survival. It's self-respect. It's justice. It's quite simply what it should have been all along. The sunset fades to dusk. The courtyard lights come on. A new day will dawn tomorrow, and I'll wake up in my own home, living my own life on my own terms. And that is more valuable than $850,000 or any amount of money in the world.